But I mean, that brings us to our next guy, and he's being talked about a lot. Is Kyle Kuzma? I'm just gonna flat out say it. Kuzma, he's wanting. That's one thing. He's wanting $30 million a year. I'm not sure if Kuzma's gonna get $30 million a year. I don't know if the team's crazy enough to give. Maybe. I mean, I've seen crazier things happen, but this is a guy who's gonna want $30 million a year. When one, he's not the best stretch four. Two, he's not the best defender. And three, you got to resign Sabonis next year. I mean, they're talking about negotiating contracts, and it's going to look around the realm of 4 years, 140.
I think it was 120.
120.
Wasn't that from a Fisher again?
Yeah, from Jake Fisher, our boy.
That might have been a good nugget.
Yeah. So I mean, he's going to take up a lot of cap space himself, and yeah, I mean, just having Kuzma, I just don't think he's. Yeah, I don't think he's a good fit for Mike Brown's system.
I think if you sign Kyle Kuzma, you're essentially going. You're not really. I don't think Kuzma would be a terrible signing. Do you think that in terms of fit and whatnot, and maybe like even chemistry's sake, we might as well just resign Barnes?
Yeah,
because Kuzma thrives is kind of having the ball in his hands. He can create for other guys. He's good with the ball in his hands. Again, I mean, like that's all you can say. I mean, he's not like a catch and shoot threat. You don't want him standing in a corner. He probably wouldn't want to do that. I give his defense a little bit more credit. I think he'd be a great team defender.
Okay.
I think whenever I see him out there, he's not getting like blown up out of the water out there. I wouldn't say he's a great defender. I would agree with you there. I might even say he's a little bit better than Barnes. But
okay.
I still think that given everything, you shouldn't go out and pay Kuzma that much money when you could just bring Barnes back for cheaper. And again, you're probably going to get yourself in a situation where you're going to be signing Barnes for 4 years or something like that, and you're going to be getting him until he's like 30-something.
I'm seeing what I've seen float around is 3 years between 52 and 60. I'm hoping closer to 52. I don't really want to be paying Barnes $20 million a year again. We did that once.
Yeah.
I mean, he was better those years than he will be going forward.
True.
So maybe like a declining contract. That's what he did in the other one. It was like 4 years, $80 million, and he went from like 23 down to 17, I guess.
Yeah, and based on that, I mean, he would be willing to do it again, especially with a situation that's far more promising.
Yeah.
Going into next season and continuity.
He's got some roots here now. I mean, this is his most tenured team now. Yeah. More than the Warriors, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. I mean, he's been here for a minute. He has connections in Sacramento. But the Barnes thing is weird because, I mean, like 2 days ago I read...
Yeah, Ham tweeted that talks had gone quiet about the extension.
Talks had gone quiet. Jake Fisher said that, like...
It's not likely.
It's not likely. They haven't talked. In Indiana, he might go back with Tyrese. I guess they still have a good connection. Mm-hmm. And then, I seen, like, tweets today from, like, Carmichael Dave and I think some other source. And they're the talks are resumed again, and like they're inching towards a deal. Like, well, which is it? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
maybe it was quiet and then it came alive in like 12 hours. But
yeah, I think
it's kind of weird.
But I mean, it seems like the truth is, I mean, regardless, and I think this is how the Kings view things with the events going on with Toronto, with the realistic outlook on guys like Green and Middleton, even Jeremy Grant. Like the idea is like those are not really guys that you can bank on trying to sign. I think just things have developed to the point where the Kings are just like, okay, Barnes is really our best option. You have to start renegotiating with. Now, granted, we're recording this Wednesday evening. They have, as of now, a day and a half essentially to go ahead and do that extension. Otherwise, it becomes an unrestricted free agent, which makes things, I guess, a little bit more challenging to get him because he'll be having other guys in his ear. Obviously, he's had some negotiations with Indiana. I think he's had some negotiations either with Dallas? I think there was another team in there.
Wait, that's true. Is that not tampering?
I guess interest. We'll say interest. There's interest going on. But, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it just kind of sounds like, given everything, I mean, everything, last night, just the day before, it really seemed like all signs were pointing to Kuzma. And even that didn't feel right.
I never thought McNair would go for Kuzma.
It doesn't feel right.
I texted you the other night. I'm like, there's no way.
And
I'm just like, there's no way.
The article I wrote for yesterday, It was like I had to throw in that last line. But that's how it is for now. Or like, it seems like they're going after Kuzma, or at least that's how it is right now. Things change so quickly.
Yeah, they do change quickly.
And also, it's just like, who really precipitated this thing? It was that Fisher report.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some talks like Kuzma, because everybody knew it's like, okay, he's going to be a free agent. Kings are going to have this money, especially with Holmes getting moved. Oh, they're one of 4 teams with over $30 million in cap. They'll have something around $25 million given when the Domantas Sabonis deal gets done, I think, and something else. So many freaking reports I'm reading today.
I know.
But
it's a lot. That Fisher article is one big report in itself.
I said it covered like 15 teams.
Yeah, it covered like everyone. They're like it was split between paragraphs too for the Kings.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, we're talking about us again. Which also noted that they're probably going to re-sign Lyles, which is getting used to Kings fans and something I kind of assumed he can't.
Yeah.
I mean, he wanted to come back. He was great. Why not?
And it makes so much more sense because even if you don't want Lyles to be a full-time backup 5, if you don't get, because you get Kuzma, and you get Vezinkov, well, now you're like really, and you sign Lyles again. Well, now what? You have 3 great power forwards.
Yeah,
like 3 really, really good power forwards.
That's a good point.
I mean, Vezinkov is kind of the question mark there because he hasn't played a day in the NBA.
Yeah,
but that shooting should help him out. I don't know. It just doesn't really make sense. It seemed like really, if anything was going to happen, it just seemed like Anunoby trade, and that just nothing's happened there.
Yeah,
and honestly, in hindsight, if we were really being honest with ourselves, it was kind of unlikely, probably to begin with.
Yeah,
just given the asking price.
Yeah,
and especially with when things were kind of realistic, it was including Holmes contract dump type stuff. It's just like, what world are we living in?
Yeah.
What do the Raptors have money on the Kings this year? That would be actually kind of funny.
That's true. It was more. I mean, Anunoby just fits so well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you want to believe, but yeah. I mean, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's one of those things where he'll hit the market and the Kings can negotiate with him someday.
That's true. I mean, he's going to be a free agent next year.
Yeah.
And I mean, they really bank on that, really. Let the Raptors believe in their core for another year and then, not make the play-in, and then OG wants to go elsewhere.
And that's the thing with the Raptors, because there was talks about them trading Van Fleet, wasn't there?
I don't know.
At the trade deadline?
Probably. I know I wouldn't there. But.
Fact check me on that, listeners. But on that note, if they are so willing to potentially trade a guy but then not be satisfied with it and then just let him walk in free agency, well, who's to say that doesn't happen with Anunoby?
Yeah.
So, let's look at Anunoby.
I just think and just in free agency in general too, is like there's so much more to think about than just this year. Like paying Kuzma $30 million this year, or even 25. It's like, okay, that's why it goes back to Barnes. If you can get Barnes for $17 million a year,
yeah,
because one, you have to re-sign Sabonis, who's going to be taking at least 10 million more, if not more, cap a year. You're probably going to want to keep Monk. You're not getting Monk for $9 million a year if he has the same year again. So that's like that $34 million becomes like 15, if that, next season. If you sign Kuzma, it becomes like nothing.
Yeah,
you're down. You got like $5 million to work with next season. Yeah. And I just don't think Kuzma's the game changer.
Yeah, I think also to that fit thing, it just doesn't. I don't see how signing Kuzma propels them into a situation where they're building their standing. I think he helps, but I don't actually see how the Kings are better with Kuzma as opposed to the Kings with Barnes.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think
Barnes is far better. Like we were talking about it with the rookies, Barnes is far better at just figuring out things to do. When Mike Brown talked to every player at the beginning or prior to the season starting and gave everybody a specific role, Barnes' role, as he said at his exit interview, was just do whatever's needed at that time. And Barnes did that pretty well. I mean, there were times where he didn't have huge rebounding numbers one night, but he'd score, or he didn't have huge scoring numbers. Well, he'd rebound, or he'd get to the line or something like that. I mean, he had an effect on every game, even if it wasn't astounding. And I do think there were a lot of stretches this season where he was a bit of an underwhelming player. But I don't know. I just still think that the Kings are probably better if they bring back Barnes. And if you have Barnes on a contract that's cheaper than Kuzma, if you're talking a year from now, it's far more feasible to move Barnes than it is to move Kuzma.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if Kuzma was coming out the same contract as Barnes, I'd be like, Kuzma. Well, it's like this.
Perfect way to put it.
I mean, if you were given the option and you had to sign one of these guys to a 3-year, $90 million contract, you signing Kuzma or you signing Jeremy Grant?
I'm signing Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, but where's the talks about him?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Jake Fisher could not read the signs and the stars on that one. But also, I think that there's probably a bit of a waiting period on what Damian Lillard. I mean, you want to say what the Trailblazers want to do, what Damian Lillard wants to do, really. I don't know. It sounds like there's conflicting reports about what Portland wants to do, but if I was one to believe, they're going to bow down to Lillard. They're going to be like, we got Scoot, which was a steal in the draft. I don't know what Charlotte was doing.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm like, where I've seen this story before. I think Brandon Miller would be a good player, but I don't think Brandon Miller's going to be like a perennial all-star.
Yeah.
Like Scoot Henderson, you could almost make the argument that Scoot Henderson could be the best player in this draft because if Wembanyama runs into injuries, which is probable.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at Zion. 4 years later, we're looking at him going like, all he does is screw porn stars. he didn't get on the floor. I'll tell you what. But, yeah. I guess talking about Grant there, it's just, I don't know.
Why would you want to stay in Portland, though, if you're Grant?
If they're getting somebody else, right, then you're kind of like, well, there's something going on here.
I've seen this before in Portland. I hate Portland. I hate Portland so much. I hate Lillard. Just leave. Look at this drama in Portland. You have Scoot Henderson. Just rebuild. Trade Lillard and rebuild around Henderson.
Henderson, Sharp. I mean, like, right there, you got two guys that, in a couple of years, could be a dynamic duo.
Yeah, but no, they want to stick with Lillard. Watch them just trade one of them away for, like, a big name. I hate that franchise so much. And like I was saying a couple weeks ago, they're that team just always one step in front of the Kings because they have Lillard.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, they take trades from us. They took Chris Murray from us.
Yeah, they did.
It's just like, oh my God, just quit it, just rebuild, please. Because they're always going to be, like you said, they're always going to be buyers, and they're more desperate than the Kings are, and they're gonna give up just a little more for that Anunoby or someone. It's just like
better if they pulled Anunoby. Isn't that what I said? Like,
yeah,
like they're going after Anunoby. I'm like, hey, watch Portland go.
Yeah, exactly. And they're gonna give up Scoot Henderson for him. Great.
If they did that, I'd be like, well, that was probably the only way you were going to get OG Anunoby.
Yeah, exactly.
The Kings don't have anything like that. I mean, obviously, 2 future firsts and Murray, Keegan Murray, I think, would have a little bit more pull, but